On this Saturday night, a long-awaited homecoming. Indigenous communities celebrate the return of more than 60 artifacts from the Vatican.
We were rushing this morning because our ancestors were in such a rush to get where they were from.
The latest step in reconciliation and the path ahead. Remembering the victims of the École Polytechnique massacre in Montreal. 36 years on, the new warning about the rise in violence against women. World Cup schedule. FIFA reveals which countries are playing in Canada. Plus, concerns some teams won't be allowed in the U.S. because of Trump's travel ban. And the legacy of Frank Gehry. A look back at the transformative work of the Canadian architect.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Jeff Semple.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. More than 60 Indigenous artifacts were returned to Canada this morning after spending a century at the Vatican. The priceless items were taken from Indigenous communities back in 1925 and put on display as part of the Vatican's missionary exhibition. Their repatriation makes good on a promise first made by Pope Francis 3 years ago. Mike Armstrong reports on their emotional homecoming and why Indigenous groups hope it's just the beginning.
The Indigenous groups that worked for years to make this shipment happen have a word to represent how important it is. Boxes unloaded at Montreal's Trudeau Airport Saturday morning contained not simply artifacts, they also call them relatives.
They're our ancestors, they're our grandparents, they're our grandfathers, grandmothers, aunties, uncles, they're our relations, and they're coming home. What a day. My heart sings, and I'm sorry I'm getting emotional, but...
A delegation from Canada traveled to the Vatican last week. Leaders, elders, and residential school survivors, they escorted the items back. Now, the artifacts were originally taken to the Vatican in 1925, part of an exhibition on missionary work with Indigenous groups around the world. They would spend a century in the Vatican Museum, usually in storage, very occasionally displayed. Among the 62 artifacts being repatriated is this Inuit kayak.
As we were growing up, going to the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church, that was ingrained in us. Thou shalt not steal. A lot of these artifacts were done exactly that.
The artifacts were not displayed Saturday. They've been moved to the Museum of History in Gatineau. Experts say they need time to acclimatize. There's also a task force to determine where some of the articles come from exactly, so they can be returned to the right community, and that community can welcome the artifacts with their own ceremonies. While that happens, efforts to bring back more artifacts from other collections continue.
Thousands of our relatives are being held around the world. So I asked the Pope, I asked others around the world to help us to bring them home. Let's not wait, another 100 years.
Now, these artifacts were collected and sent to the Vatican at a time when Canada's policies pushed assimilation, trying to stamp out Indigenous languages, even banning ceremonies. A century later, as they come back, the artifacts will be used to promote and celebrate cultures people once sought to erase. Mike Armstrong, Global News, Montreal.
Canadians across this country paused today to honor the 14 women who were murdered in a brazen anti-feminist attack 36 years ago at École Polytechnique in Montreal. Families of the victims, dignitaries, and political leaders, including Prime Minister Mark Carney, attended the evening ceremony in Montreal. 15 beams of light illuminated the night sky for each of the women killed, along with an additional light added for all victims of femicide. Today also marks the National Day of Remembrance and Action on Violence Against Women, to honor those 14 women who lost their lives at L'École Polytechnique, as well as other victims. As Felicia Parillo reports, those gathered at the school for the memorial warned that violence against women remains an urgent problem.
One by one, their faces rose. Portraits of the 14 young women whose lives were stolen on December 6, 1989. The pain is still felt 36 years later, and the small gathering at Place du 6 Décembre is proof of that.
We want to commemorate, to never forget the victims. We want to also bring awareness on that is still going on.
36 years ago, a gunman motivated by hatred of feminists killed 14 women and injured 13 others at École Polytechnique. Advocates say decades later, the forms of violence have changed, but they haven't gone away.
This year we experienced 15 feminicide. Last year it was 25, so it's still going on, and we still need to never forget, but also still talk about it and fight those violences.
Earlier this week, Polytechnique held its annual White Rose ceremony and announced a major expansion to its Order of the White Rose Scholarship Program. Created in 2014 and traditionally given to just one female engineering student each year, it will now award 14 recipients, one for every woman killed 36 years ago. The school says it's a way to honor the victims, their families, and those who were injured while supporting future generations of women in engineering.
It's wonderful to see them alive like that. See them capable of reaching the sky because of their talent, because of their will, because of what offers the bursary of the Order of the White Rose.
People here say honoring and remembering these women is essential, as is confronting the violence that still exists and the work that remains. Felicia Parillo, Global News, Montreal.
Conservation officers in Bella Coola, BC have called off the search for the grizzly bear that attacked a group of students and teachers 3 weeks ago.
Due to the time of year, officers are no longer actively trying to capture bears, and equipment has been removed. Our investigation determined the behavior, actions of the bear were aggressive and unlike any documented grizzly bear attack we have seen in British Columbia or in Canada.
Officers had captured 8 grizzlies in the area, but DNA testing then revealed they were not involved in the attack. More than $100,000 has been raised to support the families of the 3 students and a staff member who were badly injured. Well, FIFA has just released the full schedule for the group stage of the World Cup. This summer will mark the first time Canada has ever co-hosted the world's most popular sports tournament, and fans hoping to attend a match in either Vancouver or Toronto now know which teams are coming to town. The schedule's release follows yesterday's pool draw event in Washington that saw Canada's Prime Minister and the U.S. President among some of the biggest stars in sport. Our Mackenzie Gray is following the ball for us again tonight.
The FIFA World Cup draw was just as much about soccer as it was about flattering one man, U.S. President Donald Trump. Gigi Infantino, the head of FIFA, gave the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize to the president, and he enjoyed the trappings of it all, including the medal and the certificate that came with it. That award put Trump in a great mood, something Mark Carney tried to capitalize on, speaking with Trump along with the Mexican president for hours during the draw, where Trump showed his jubilation.
This is truly one of the great honors of my life.
For 45 minutes after the draw, the trio also spoke privately. The Prime Minister's office tight-lipped on what, if anything, actually came from the meeting. Canada! The leaders were involved in the draw symbolically, but once it started in earnest, Canada was looking good. Drawing Switzerland and Qatar was shaping up to be a favorable group until Wayne Gretzky pulled out Canada's last ball, a European playoff team that could include Italy. The worst-case scenario.
When I saw him pull it out and I could see that there was a lot of words and letters, I was like, oh no, that's a European pot.
The European playoff includes Bosnia and Herzegovina, Northern Ireland, and Wales, but Italy is the favorite to make it out of that group, making an Italy-Canada matchup in Toronto the likely first World Cup game on Canadian soil. But we won't know that for sure until the European playoff wraps on March 31st, a disadvantage for the men's national team.
I don't love the fact that we don't know our third opponent, but you know, we'll focus heavily on the first 2.
With the final schedule now set, fans in Vancouver can watch Australia, New Zealand, and Belgium, plus 2 Canada matches. While in Toronto, the teams will include Ghana, Germany, Croatia, Senegal, and the Canadian opener on June 12th.
We might not never feel that kind of emotion again, what's coming in the next 6 months.
To get through to the knockout stages, Canada will need a result, either a draw or a victory against Switzerland or Italy. But Jesse Marsh's group is aiming higher, hoping to win their group. And if they do, they'll have a knockout round game in Vancouver. Mackenzie Gray, Global News, Washington.
And staying with soccer, it was a big day for Canadian footy fans as the Vancouver Whitecaps faced off against Inter Miami in the Major League Soccer final. The match saw phenoms Lionel Messi and Thomas Muller face off on Miami's home turf. Sadly, though, Vancouver fell just short of capturing its first ever MLS Cup, losing 3-1. President Trump's travel ban coming up. The list of countries whose citizens are banned from visiting the U.S. is about to get even longer. Plus, a manhunt is underway in South Africa after gunmen stormed into a hostel and opened fire, killing at least 12 people, including children. At least 12 people are dead, including 3 children, after a mass shooting at a hostel in South Africa. It happened early Saturday morning near the city of Pretoria. 13 others were hurt. Police say multiple gunmen opened fire inside an unlicensed bar. Police are now searching for the suspects.
There is a room for the hostel where people that were congregated drinking. There were approximately 3 individuals, those who approached the room. They started shooting randomly.
At this point, police say they don't know the motive for the killings. South Africa has one of the highest murder rates in the world, fueled by gang violence and robberies. Plans are now underway to expand U.S. President Donald Trump's already extensive travel ban to even more countries. The White House warns more than 30 nations could soon face restrictions at a time when the U.S. is preparing to host the world for next summer's FIFA World Cup. Candace Cole reports from Washington.
I won't be specific on the number, but it's over 30. And the president is continuing to evaluate countries.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem telling Fox News earlier this week President Trump is considering which countries to add to the list of those already under a travel ban to the United States. Back in June, Trump imposed heavy travel restrictions on people from 19 countries, including Afghanistan, Somalia, and Venezuela. Noem did not mention which countries might be added to that list, but told Fox News.
Listen, if they don't have a stable government there, if they don't have a country that can sustain itself and tell us who those individuals are and help us vet them, why should we allow people from that country to come here to the United States?
The additional countries could also include those participating in the FIFA World Cup, which just presented Trump with a peace medal. Haiti and Iran are already among those singled out by the ban. This latest move by the Trump administration comes after the Thanksgiving week shooting of 2 National Guardsmen, allegedly by Afghan national Ramanullah Lakanwal, who fled to the U.S. after its withdrawal from Afghanistan in 2021. The attack killed specialist Sarah Beckstrom and critically wounded Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolf. In response, Trump ordered a pause on asylum applications from those countries already listed in the ban, sparking concern among refugee advocates.
It's a profound departure from decades of bipartisan support for a legal pathway that served Afghan women's rights activists, Venezuelan political dissidents, Congolese people, LGBTQ people, Christian minorities, all of whom now fear there is no room left for them as a result of the changes that we've seen.
Trump has also halted visas for Afghans who helped the U.S. in Afghanistan. Candace Cole, Global News, Washington.
Russian forces have launched another major drone attack on Ukraine. Drones struck residential buildings, power facilities, and a railway station. At least 8 people were hurt. The attack comes as U.S. and Ukrainian diplomats met for another round of peace talks today in Miami. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also said he held a very constructive phone call with Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, President Trump's peace envoy and son-in-law. So far, though, Russia appears unwilling to make any concessions. In the UK, protesters tossed apple crumble and custard at the Crown Jewels display at the Tower of London. That crown, which is worn by King Charles on major state occasions, contains 3,000 diamonds and jewels. It was not damaged, and police say 4 protesters were arrested. The group responsible, called Take Back Power, says the stunt was meant to draw attention to income inequality and its calls to increase taxes on the rich. Still ahead, fighting the flu. Children's hospitals across Canada are sounding the alarm over a spike in young patients. Flu season is hitting Canada earlier and harder than usual, with hospitals reporting more patients with serious illness. Take a look at this blue line that shows flu cases so far, spiking a month earlier than last year. The Vancouver area and parts of Quebec are already seeing widespread flu activity, with caseloads also increasing in parts of the Prairies, Atlantic Canada, and Ontario. And children's hospitals across Canada are reporting a spike in younger patients admitted with the flu. Doctors are urging families to get vaccinated. Catherine Ward explains what's driving the surge and who's most at risk.
The emergency room at CHEO in Ottawa has been managing more and more kids sick with the flu.
What's concerning is that, many of these patients require hospitalization. It is a worry, to know that we're going into a season that will have a high volume of patients needing our care.
In November 2024, there were 17 positive tests for influenza at CHEO. This year, during the same period of time, 145 cases were confirmed.
What we're noticing as well is that many of those patients have not had the flu vaccine this year.
National numbers indicate the surge is happening across the country.
Nearly every province and territory are seeing increases in cases of influenza disease already, and that's unusual.
Dr. Eleni Galanis says one strain of the virus could be part of the reason for the early spike.
Every season is different. I think the one element that we are seeing and that we're watching closely is this strain of influenza called the H3N2. That strain is typically one that causes a large number of people to get infected, to need to seek health care.
As of November 28th, national data shows the majority of cases are in people 65 years of age and older. The Public Health Agency of Canada says hospitals should be prepared for increased patient volume this season. Health officials say the best thing people can do is to roll up their sleeves and get a flu shot.
I want people to consider and get their vaccine this year, even though not all the strains may be a good match in the vaccine. It's really important that we still take that step.
Catherine Ward, Global News, Toronto.
And Toronto's Sick Kids Hospital has launched its holiday fundraising campaign, and its promotional video features a Canadian baseball player who ends up striking out with the kids.
Hey, kids. It's me, Freddie Freeman.
What a loser.
Trust me, man. We know who you are.
You've really got some nerve coming here.
I just wanted to visit because I'm just so happy and so proud of how you guys are. Whoa, who threw that?
Go back to your sunshine and traffic, you hoser.
That, of course, is Freddie Freeman, who delivered a clutch performance for the LA Dodgers in their World Series victory over the Jays. And all kidding aside, Freeman donated $1 million to a California children's hospital last year after his son became sick. This holiday season, all donations to the Toronto Sick Kids Hospital will be matched up to $1 million. Up next, remembering Frank Gehry, the outpouring of tributes for the legendary Canadian-American architect. The Olympic flame was lit in Italy today, which of course means the torch relay has now officially begun. Over the next 2 months, 10,000 torchbearers will help to carry that flame on a journey across the country spanning 12,000 kilometers, ahead of the opening ceremonies of the Olympic Games in Milan on February the 6th. Well, an outpouring of tributes were held around the world today following the death of Canadian-born architect Frank Gehry. The 96-year-old was known internationally for his unconventional style and daring designs. Gehry was behind some of the world's most recognizable buildings, including Toronto's Art Gallery of Ontario and the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain. Jillian Piper now reports on Gehry's life and legacy.
Thank you.
Legendary architect Frank Gehry's signature curving designs have been playfully shaping cities' cultural identities around the world for decades.
We had to make a building that was glass and ephemeral.
The titan of architectural innovation died Friday at the age of 96, leaving behind more than 150 global projects which drew high praise, including from former U.S. President Barack Obama.
Frank's work teaches us that while buildings may be sturdy and fixed to the ground, like all great art, they can lift our spirits, they can soar and broaden our horizons.
His most famous building, the Guggenheim Museum in Bilbao, Spain, which is credited with turning that city into an international destination, but it originally faced criticism, a common hurdle in Gehry's career.
When people see the early studies of my work, they don't quite get it because it looks not complete. There's mistrust, misunderstanding, and they say all kinds of funny things. The track record's been pretty good.
Gehry, who was born in Toronto before moving to the U.S., was also tapped to revitalize the Art Gallery of Ontario, something the gallery reveres. Frank Gehry was not only the most important architect of the last half-century, he was also a great Canadian icon and literally transformed the AGO into the architectural masterpiece it is today. On Saturday, visitors at another work of Gehry's, the Foundation Louis Vuitton in Paris, remembered his influence fondly.
It makes me quite emotional because he made quite a big difference to the world and made the world more interesting and more beautiful.
I will keep my thoughts on him and be grateful that he still lives in a way, he still lives with what he did.
A fitting tribute for a man who did not like to dwell on the past.
I don't look back easily. Can't bring myself to look back.
Jillian Piper, Global News, Ottawa.
And that is Global National for this Saturday night. I'm Jeff Semple. Tonight's Your Canada is a pair of patriotic snowmen in Calgary. Thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.